Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to today's video. Welcome back to my channel. I feel like shit. I'm not gonna lie, I feel horrible. Yes, I see you dancing. Had to take the kids to the doctors today. I feel like shit. I actually took a nap when the boys did because Jackson got some shots. So if you have a kid then and he gets shots, you know, like they go to sleep. So Jackson went to sleep. Kai went to sleep after he got checked by the doctor. And I ended up going to sleep as well. Great. So I'm kind of still like a little like groggy and out there. Also filming this video like pretty late in the day. It's almost 4 in the morning, or in the afternoon. Can you see it says 3:44? But anyways, today we are going to be covering the case of Andrew Burd. So since I became a mom, these cases kind of bother me a lot more. I really want to know what you guys think. I don't think that Hannah purposefully killed him by giving him too much salt, which we'll talk about, but I actually do think that she was very overwhelmed and just didn't put enough attention into him, which she should have. So I think that she should have been convicted of something, but I don't think that she should have been convicted of murder. Like, I do think that she was a little reckless. Which, I mean, when you tell the story, you'll understand. Okay, so Hannah Overton she's still alive, but she is just like the type, like she always says that she was made to be a mother. So her and her husband Larry at the time had 4 children, and she had always told him that she wanted to adopt, but they had 4 biological children when they decided to start actively pursuing adopting a child. Hannah worked with special needs children, so she actually really wanted to be around us, she really wanted their foster child to be a special needs child. So they had found a little girl who was deaf, who they originally wanted to adopt, but of course adoption is a long process. Anybody that has gone through the adoption process, I'm sure will let you know it's harsh and confusing, and you really have to have a guide pretty much for it. So by the time they had gotten through with the adoption process, the little girl that they wanted to adopt had actually already been adopted, which is why they tell you, you know, adoption is the type of process where, like, you need to basically hurry. But because they lost the child that they wanted, it didn't disparage them. They actually decided to continue on with the process, and they were going to continue looking for a child to adopt, to give a forever home to. And something about the Overtons is that they were very, very into their church. They are the same religion as me, and that is Christian. They were into Christianity. They did a lot of like missionary work. Like, they were very big into the church. And that is where they actually met Andrew Burd. Andrew Burd was a foster child, and he was in the church. He was originally going to be adopted by the pastor and his wife of the church, but they decided that Andrew wasn't a good fit for them, but they were still actively trying to search for a home for Andrew. And the Overton's daughters actually went to like the prayer school with Andrew, and they said that Andrew would always pray to be adopted, which is really sad. Andrew's biological mother had actually abused a lot of drugs, and his father he worked for a traveling circus, so he wasn't home much, and they were both very, very young, so it was just like a very bad situation just all around. Apparently Andrew's biological grandmother was also a substance abuser, so it just wasn't a good situation, and CPS decided that Andrew was actually in immediate danger, and they removed him. So the way I read it, the pastor actually had gone to the Overtons and asked the Overtons to look into Andrew because they knew that they were looking into adopting. So that's what the Overtons did, and they were on a 6-month trial period before they began the process to adopt Andrew, which this is actually quite common because, you know, kids just aren't the right fit for certain families. and this period is actually to determine if the kid is right for your family. So Andrew was adopted. Well, not really. Like, he was on his in the process of getting adopted by the Overtons, and in this time, Hannah actually found out she was expecting. So their family was about to go from a family of 4 to a family of 6, very, very quickly, which is scary when you think about it. As a mom, that is scary. But I mean, they also are they're in a different situation than what I am in, and I know for a fact I could not handle it. So, wow. But they decided to still go through with the process, and they decided to give it a chance because they really wanted to help Andrew out. And when Andrew came into their home, they just said Andrew had so many issues of, like, he said that he would hoard food. He did have like a speech impediment and stuff like that, so he did have some issues, like speaking. He sometimes would speak with a stutter. I read that his mother had abused drugs while she was pregnant, but if she had abused drugs while she was pregnant, I don't want to think that the hospital would have let her take said baby home. I know that the hospital tests babies. I mean, I had 2 kids. Like, the hospital tested them when they were born, and to make sure you weren't doing anything. Because if you are doing something, they're going to take the baby from you when the baby tests positive at birth, because everything goes straight to the baby when you're pregnant. So I'm a little confused on that. But they were really just trying to work with it and work with what they had, and they really, really wanted to make it a forever home for Andrew. They said that Andrew was a little bit behind, which, I mean, if he was in foster care, he probably would have been behind. Kind of makes sense. So, and they said that Andrew would, when he first came, would prefer to play with their 2-year-old son instead of their 4-year-old son, which Andrew was closer in age to the 4-year-old than the 2-year-old. But I mean, like, hey, as long as he had somebody to play with, who cares? I mean, as long as the kid was happy, that's all that matters. But the food thing, they said that Andrew basically would hoard food, and he had he basically would not get full. Like, Hannah actually testified in court and said that mealtime would always end in a fit of tears for him. Which, I had also read that that's very common for foster kids as well, because sometimes they don't get fed, and we don't really know, like, what his other foster homes were like. I've been more into color correctors than I ever used to be. But anyways, so the Overtons were working through this issue the best that they could with what they had. So around the time that I'm going to talk about, Hannah had actually been in a car wreck, and Andrew apparently, I believe, was in there in the car wreck with her. However, Hannah was the one that suffered the most, and even her injuries were just minor. She, I think, had like a little bit of back issues, and that was it. But I mean, she was still in pain. So on this particular day, she said that her husband went to work, and they decided to have something like family snuggles so Hannah could rest. So Hannah actually woke up and she said, "It's in here!" But she actually said that she woke up and Andrew was gone. So she got up and looked for him, and she found him in, like, on top of the cabinet. And he was, like, had his face in something, and she just said she tossed it away and threw it and didn't even look at it. It didn't bother her, apparently, to know what he had been consuming, and this is her foster son. Which, I mean, like, the first thing I do when I see Kai with something, including my parents are the same way, is say, what do you have, take it from him and see what it is that he has, and then make the decision on if he can have it or not. And if he can't have it, then we have to think about where it was, how he got to it, and we rethink our positioning on why he was able to get to this and why it was there, should it continue to still be there, things like that. So she said that Andrew said that he was hungry, and she said, no, you have to wait till Daddy gets home, before she was going to feed him, because they were going to eat lunch together. And she said that he threw a fit. This resulted, Andrew was supposedly known to have temper tantrums, part of his behavioral problems, which, I mean, he was in foster care, so, and he was so young, so I believe that. could not imagine how I would feel if I was in Andrew's position. So she said he threw a fit, and she just decided she was in so much pain that she was going to just go ahead and get him something to eat. So she made him some soup, and this is where the controversialness kind of kicks in, and that is that she put Creole seasoning in it. So Creole seasoning, she said she thought that the Creole seasoning being in the soup would fill him up faster, but it didn't. She said after he was done eating that, he asked for another bowl, so she made him another bowl with Creole seasoning again in it. I think that a lot of people might not know what Creole seasoning is, so I kind of want to explain it, because I had no idea what it was. My sister actually is a chef. I'm wrong. My sister is a cook. She's a really good cook, and she's the one that introduced me to Creole seasoning. My brother is a chef. So Creole seasoning, my sister actually introduced it to me. She put it on our popcorn, and it was delicious. But Creole seasoning actually is typically on fries. I actually think we put Creole seasoning on fries when I worked up at Jangles. So that's typically what you use Creole seasoning for. It's a little bit spicy, and that is gonna come back to bite the Overtons in the ass. So it's a salt. It's a seasoning salt, and this really came back to bite them in the ass. So she made him another bowl, and she said he finished that, and he was saying he was still hungry. So she decided to give him a sippy cup, which he's 4 years old. Why is he still using a sippy cup, honestly? I don't feel like I know any 4-year-olds that use a sippy cup. My 2-year-old uses a cup, a regular cup that I would drink out of, like what I have back there. My 2-year-old does that. My 6-month-old uses a sippy cup. Just gonna say that now. So I'm just a little iffy about that, but what she did in this sippy cup is she put water and mixed it with the Creole seasoning. It's honestly gross. Like, really gross. But, I mean, it is what it is, but she said that he suddenly started exhibiting signs of the flu, and they did not take him to get medical attention right away, which a lot of people say that makes sense that they didn't do that, because so he was still a ward of the state technically, so the Overtons actually could not make medical decisions for Andrew, so people say that that's why the Overtons didn't take him to the hospital, but they did eventually take him to get looked at, and from there it just kind of goes downhill, honestly. He actually fell into a coma and died the next day. It was very, very quick, honestly. I just used this Undone shadow to do that liner, and I love that shadow. The liner, not the best. I don't really care, to be completely honest. It's 4 o'clock. But I'm excited to try that on a day where I'm going to wear it out, and I'm going to use a better liner brush. So, anyways, the hospital finds that Andrew had a ton of sodium in his system, which comes from salt. So, the hospital determined that he actually was killed from salt poisoning, and that is when the police were engaged into the case, because, I mean, they had a 4-year-old who died of salt poisoning. At least that's what the hospital thought. So again, the police are called, and the Overtons are pulled in for questioning on Andrew's death. So I really think you should, if you're interested in this case, you should really look at Hannah's interrogation. It's very strange because she's kind of giggling throughout it. It's really weird, like your son just died. Doesn't seem like it's really mentioned that she's smiling and giggling in her interrogation, but I think that that's really, really weird. I mean, I would be destroyed if Kai passed away or Jackson passed away. I would be destroyed. And this woman's talking to a police officer and giggling. Ultimately, both Larry and Hannah Overton were arrested for Andrew's murder, basically his death. They were trying to say that Hannah was responsible for his death because she gave him too much salt, and she purposefully did it by not getting him medical attention when he needed it. So Hannah actually was convicted because Andrew had cuts and bruising all over his body at the hospital, which the prosecution actually used against Hannah and said that they were it was signs of abuse. That's what they were trying to say. So Hannah actually again was convicted of Andrew's death. Cases like this hit me so much harder since I became a mom. Like, they used to bother me, but now they bother me even more because there's some horrible people in the world. There really, really is. I don't think Hannah Overton is one of those horrible people. I mean, there's even a Dr. Phil episode on this, which I love Dr. Phil. That man's entertaining. Whether it's fake or not, it's fucking entertaining. So Hannah actually was convicted of Andrew's death, and she was sentenced to life in prison. This was another one of those unique cases where the judge went and said, "You're either going to convict her or you're going to acquit her. You're either going to convict her for life in for prison and life in prison, or you're going to acquit her." Which I don't agree with that. I've seen that happen in one other case, and it was kind of deserved in that case, but in this case, I don't think it was. So they ended up convicting her, and she served 7 years in prison before she was able to appeal it, and she did appeal it, and she got her conviction overturned because she had one of the best lawyers in Texas, I think's where it was, work for her, and this lady is so smart. God, what was her name? I can't think of her name. Just look it up. But her lawyer actually went on TV and explained that the hospital actually had been giving Andrew a medicine for an hour and a half that would cause your sodium levels to be very, very high. Because his stomach contents, there was no salt in the stomach contents. They were just going off of his blood level. And basically, I really don't know how Andrew died. I don't know if he died from this sodium or what, but if he did die from the sodium poisoning, it technically would be on the hospital. But she was released from prison. She now has 6 children. She had another baby in 2018. And she receives monthly compensation checks from the state. But yeah, so this is a very tragic story. So tragic. But I want to know what you guys think down below. Let me know. And yeah, I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Yeah, sorry, I'm not my bubbly person, like my bubbly usual self, because I just don't feel good. I really just don't. Like, I have a giant headache, to be completely honest, and a little bit of a stuffy nose, and I just kind of want to get in the tub and soak once the kids are asleep, and then I want to go to sleep. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I'll be feeling better in my next video. I'll see you guys then. Bye, guys!